Now let's talk about the major arteries that branch directly off of the aorta in the abdominal cavities. Most of these are going to provide blood to the digestive system. So remember that in the thoracic cavity, we call it the descending thoracic aorta. Once it goes through the diaphragm, we call it the descending abdominal aorta until it splits down here at the base of the vertebral column. And that's going to be in our next section, what happens after that. All right, so before we do this, let's review the digestive system really quickly. Okay, I know you haven't learned the digestive system yet, but most of this you already have heard about. Okay, so we've got the esophagus, which is the tube that carries the food from the mouth to the stomach. The esophagus goes through the diaphragm there. The stomach starts digestion and then sends the partially digested food into the small intestine. Here, the duodenum is the first part of the small intestine, and then it continues through the small intestine to the large intestine, which starts with the cecum, this little pocket here with the appendix hanging off of it. And then above the cecum, the small intestine is called the colon. You have the ascending, transverse, descending colon, the sigmoid colon, and then the rectum, and the waste is removed through the anus. Now the other structures we have are the pancreas, which sits behind the stomach, which makes some of the enzymes that will help with digestion. The liver is going to filter blood, and it also makes bile, which is stored in the gallbladder, and then gets dumped into the duodenum along with the pancreatic enzymes. And bile is going to help break down fats. The other thing that we have in the abdominal cavity we need to know about is the spleen. Spleen is not part of the digestive system. Remember that the spleen's job is to recycle red blood cells. Okay, so all of this blood is going to go to these organs to provide blood to the cells of the organs and then travel through venous circulation to remove waste and nutrients from these organs so that they can be filtered through the liver, and then those nutrients can be sent to other structures in the body. All right, so let's talk about all of these branches that we need to know. The first thing to branch off of the aorta after it passes through the diaphragm is the celiac trunk. And the celiac trunk is not much of a trunk. You remember this? A trunk is an arterial branch that then branches into other things. This one barely looks like a branch at all, but it's just this little nubbin, and then it branches into 3 parts. The branches from this are the left gastric artery, which supplies the right side of the stomach. Remember, gastro means stomach. Why is it the left gastric artery? Because it branches left of where the right gastric artery comes off. So we have the left gastric artery, the splenic artery that goes behind the stomach. No, the stomach is not see-through. They're just showing it see-through so you can see where this goes to the spleen. And then the common hepatic artery is this one here. Our other common artery that we met already was the common carotid artery that split into an internal-external. This is not going to split into internal-external. The common hepatic artery is going to split into the right gastric artery that goes around, yes, the left side of the stomach, and the hepatic artery proper that is going to take oxygenated blood to the liver. Okay, so those are our 3 branches: left gastric, splenic, and common hepatic arteries. Those are our branches off of the celiac trunk. Now the next thing that branches is the superior mesenteric artery. And what they're showing here is the large intestine. The small intestine has been removed. It would normally fill up this space. The reason they're showing it removed is because all of these blood vessels travel on the back of the intestines, so from the front you can't see them. So they remove them so we can see the blood vessels. So from this superior mesenteric artery, not only does it supply, as you can see, this proximal end of the large intestine, but all of these little branches here are going to supply the small intestine. So most of the small intestine is going to get its blood from this superior mesenteric artery. Then down just below where the aorta ends and branches into the common iliac arteries, we have the inferior mesenteric artery. This one is going to provide blood flow to the distal end of the colon and to the rectum. Okay, so you can see that there. For this, the transverse colon, it gets blood flow from both of these. All right, now the venous blood is going to take a different pathway. All the other veins that we talked about flow directly back into the vena cava. This one, the blood from the spleen and the digestive organs is going to take a bypass. And that bypass is the hepatic portal vein. So all of this nutrient-rich blood from the digestive system and the blood from the spleen that's full of iron and heme and all of the parts of those red blood cells that have been broken down, that blood is low in oxygen. It's already been through capillary beds, so it's low in oxygen, very, very high in nutrients. So it's going to travel first through this hepatic portal vein to the liver to be filtered. And then from the liver, blood goes out through hepatic veins to the vena cava. Okay, so we're not going to have these, for example, splenic vein doesn't go directly to the vena cava. Inferior mesenteric vein doesn't go to the vena cava. Superior mesenteric vein doesn't go to the vena cava. Okay, notice the splenic vein comes across behind the stomach. The inferior mesenteric vein joins the splenic vein here behind the stomach. And then the superior mesenteric vein is going to join the splenic vein, and then all three of those together become this hepatic portal vein. Okay, this structure, this grouping, is called the hepatic portal chair, and that is because it sort of looks like a chair. The splenic vein makes the seat, the inferior mesenteric makes the front legs of the chair, the superior mesenteric makes the back legs of the chair, and the hepatic portal vein makes the back of the chair. I know it's actually a thing. I didn't make this up. Now, after flowing through the liver to be filtered, then the blood flows out the right and left hepatic veins to the inferior vena cava that goes up behind the liver. Okay, so make sure that you distinguish between the hepatic portal vein and the hepatic veins. Okay, one portal vein, which branches into right and left branches, and two hepatic veins, right and left, right and left. Sorry, I got myself mixed up. Hepatic veins, those carry deoxygenated and filtered blood to the inferior vena cava. Okay, one other thing to be aware of, and that is the spelling of splenic. Okay, spleen, the organ, has two E's, S-P-L-E-E-N. Splenic has one E. Why? I have no idea. Okay, that's just the way it is. Just make sure you spell it correctly. You all know that hepatic means liver, right? Okay. All right. Now, let's go back to the arteries. So here's the aorta. The other big arteries that we need to know about are the renal arteries, right and left, that go to the kidneys. Don't mix the kidneys up with the spleen. Okay, I'll show you later on a model. First of all, there are two kidneys. They're closer in than the spleen. The spleen is way over here. Okay, and there's two kidneys, one spleen. So the left and right renal arteries, and then farther down, left and right gonadal arteries. Those are going to supply either the ovaries or the testes. Okay. The other things that we see on here, here's the celiac trunk. Okay. I will not ask you about the branches of the celiac trunk except on a model or diagram where you can see them all, like here. Sorry, not that one, here, where you can see where they're going. Okay. Where were we? There we are. superior mesenteric and inferior mesenteric arteries don't have a left and right matching. Okay, there's one superior and one inferior, and they come off of the front of the aorta individually. Okay, everything else pretty much has a left and a right. Okay, blood returns to the vena cava through the left and right renal veins. Renal arteries, renal veins, easy peasy. The gonadal veins are a little weird. The right gonadal vein goes directly to the vena cava. The left gonadal vein does this weird thing here. Don't worry about it. It does flow back through the kidneys, okay? I mean, to the vena cava. All right. That's all of that. Look at how much we've learned so far. Oh my gosh, okay, we haven't learned all of this, but we've learned most of it. And in our next section, we're going to talk about what happens from here down as the blood flows into the legs.